that the one you're saying?
No, actually, okay, this match line basically makes sure that ENPS03, this device name is associated with this MAC address. Okay, let's assume that your MAC address doesn't match. Okay, okay, the file that is copied here when you clone these systems. Actually, if I clone this system and create a new system out of it, then the new systems at the time of cloning, we just make sure that the new MAC addresses are generated. Okay? But on the clone system, this MAC address will remain the same. Are you getting my point? You have, if you are not getting my point, I'm going to repeat it. Let's assume I am going to clone this. Okay. Whenever I clone a system, for example, let me show you this one because this one is not running. There is CubeSend, this one is not running. If I clone this system, right click and then clone, this will ask for a new name. Okay. Include only NAT. I will say generate new MAC address. Why? The reason, if these two systems, this clone system and the original systems are on the same network, then there could be a clash if they are on the same MAC address. Okay. So there could be a problem. So you always make sure that you generate a new MAC address. Okay. But once you, in the next step, you create the clone. Okay. Cancel. Oof, I have done a full clone. Okay. So once you have created the clone, okay, what will happen? Everything that was inside this system, all the files will be copied as it is. So in the same fashion, if the machine that you are right now seeing, Bionic Cube Worker or Bionic Cube Master, all these systems, okay, this Cube Master, if I clone it, what will happen? Whatever files inside it will be copied into the client as it is. Okay. So my etc net plan will also be copied as it is, and these MAC addresses will remain the same for both the systems. Are you getting my point?
Yes, sir. Got it.
Okay, so that's why what I do in the just to add MAC address, so I comment out this MAC address part. In the original file, that is netplan 50 cloudinit.yaml, these lines were already there. Match MAC address and all this. I have made sure to comment them out just to make sure there should not be any clash. Okay. Because in that case, ENP, if there is the MAC address doesn't match, if this MAC address is not there in your system, then ENPS03 will never come up. And you'll be, I mean, you'll be in wit's end as to what is going wrong. Okay. So that's why make sure this is the way it is. Okay. So that's being said, let me take a final look at the participant list. It is 17 and it is more than 10, 15, it is 10, 25. So let's get started with our today's agenda. Okay.
Okay, sir.
Okay. Having said that, today I am going to start with how to take the examination and what the examination looks like. Okay. This is a minor small exam guide. I'll be sharing this with all of you. No issues there. Okay. What this says, when you take the Kubernetes examination, using the whole kubernetes.io domain is allowed and is permitted during the examination. That means whatever help I am accessing here in this classroom about kubernetes.io, all of them are accessible. All these sites are accessible. Okay. So that is one fundamental thing. So you can consult examples, copy paste find out YAML code and copy paste text and commands, and even use snippets from the blog posts, that is from anything that is available in this kubernetes.io subdomain. Okay. In the exam, you will have 6 cluster environments. Okay. So there will be 6 different clusters. CK exam focus on multi-node cluster environment. Okay. You need to be aware on which cluster you are in before answering the question. Aware of which cluster you are in before answering the question. Okay. More importantly, if you answer the question in the wrong cluster, you get 0 marks. Always check and switch cluster before every question. Okay. Now for switching cluster, in fact, every question will be associated with the required command for switching on to the particular cluster in question. That is, required command for each question will be provided in the question itself. Read the question properly. That will tell you how to set the context. Okay. So there is a Kubernetes config switch command or set context command, which can set the context for as your cluster and switching cluster. Sometimes you are expected to create your resources in a specific namespace. Okay. So in that case, you need to make sure you run this command in this fashion. First, you set the context of the namespace, or else you can run all the commands using the -n. I will show you what I'm talking. Okay. So next, Kubernetes, usually the examination will be provided in your Google Chrome browser in this fashion. There will be 2 Chrome tabs. One tab will be the examination, another tab will be the Kubernetes IO. Okay, site. In the left question selection here, okay, command to set context, okay, weightage and all, and you will also find a clock somewhere here, okay. And in the center here, number 7, you'll find there is a terminal. In fact, if you have already seen, what is that? We have done it on play with Docker kind of thing. So you get a terminal in play with Docker. In the same fashion, you'll get a terminal here in the browser itself. So whatever that you do during the course of the examination, you will be doing that in the terminal. Okay. And here is the end examination, refresh console, etc. There will be some other. At the beginning itself on the Chrome exam tab, there will be a comprehensive guideline set of guides which will be provided in the exam tab itself as to what you should be expecting. Okay. Please make sure you read that part properly. Okay. And this is the way your examination tab will be set. Okay. You are already aware, if you have already registered for Kubernetes examination, in that case, with that examination fee, you are entitled for 2 examination. So if you fail in the first examination, then you can make a second attempt. Of course, you will pass in the first attempt itself, that I'm sure about. Okay. So that's the way it is expected to be. Okay.
Sorry, just to interrupt. The command to set up the context of your namespace, you said, in your diagram, it's marked point 4 there. So you mean to say you need to only type the context there, or you can use the terminal?
No, in the terminal itself, or in the question itself, it will be provided what is that command. Okay. So this don't get the idea that this is the command you need to remember, the kubectl set context. Okay.
Yes.
It will be, the command will be something like this. Okay. Kubectl config set context lk8s or something like that. That is the name of a cluster. Okay. So these kind of commands you are expected to execute, and that will be provided during the examination itself. Okay. This is just a give an idea what sort of commands you are expected to execute. Okay.
And can you open multiple terminals, or you have only one terminal at your disposal?
Only one terminal, but if you want to, you can open multiple SSH. Okay.
Okay, okay, okay.
From that you can do an SSH to the other terminal and all. Okay. So other node, if at all it has to be, you have to log into the other node, you have to do an SSH. And if at all, if you want to do multiple terminal kind of thing, in that case, all you can do, you can try to find out whether that system has any kind of screen kind of thing is there or not, and you can install screen, and that itself could be a screen or Tmax, that itself could be another tutorial. Okay. So,
Okay.
okay. Using Tmax, you can create multiple terminals on the same console itself, but don't go into those complexities. Okay. So
Sure.
during the examination, as it is, you will be tense. So try to take the straightforward path, and you won't need to access all those complexities. Okay. So
Sure.
as we go through all the exam challenges one by one, it would be clear to you only at some point of time you may well have to log into a worker node. Okay. In that case, you temporarily do an SSH. Okay. And then come back again like that. So is it clear?
So, yes, thank you.
Okay. So what I'm going to do today, there is a particular page in Kubernetes documentation. That documentation talks about. I'm going to open two different windows. One where is the documentation, and one more that I'm going to configure as a new window. And this is the one that I'm going to access as kubernetes.io. Okay. So this is my documentation, CKA cheat sheet. Okay. This documentation is work in progress. So once it is ready, I'll be sharing all of this. Or to the extent it is ready, I'll be sharing that with all of you. Meanwhile, it is right now, some of the chapters that I'm going to cover are already here. And as and when the chapter is covered, I'll share that particular part of the chapter. So in our last session, we have done config map, isn't it?
Yes, yes.
About the start secrets.
Yes.
Yes, yep, yep.
So all of you are comfortable with config map?
Yes, more or less, yeah.
More or less. Yes. A little bit confusion is there. Okay. Is it something like that? Hello?
Yes,
Brush up.
if you have some, yeah, if you have a time window, it would be good if you brush
Yes.
up. Yeah,
Okay,
yeah,
okay. Because I have to make some time available, because
yeah.
the thing that I'm going to talk about is today is about secrets. Secrets and config maps are same. Their handling is same. Okay. Only config maps are stored in plain text, secrets are stored in an encrypted fashion, but their configuration and managing them is same. So today, even if you don't remember config map, I'm going to expose you to a config map problem here. Create a config map from files contained in a directory. Okay. This is the problem that we have done yesterday. And there is a config map folder. Within that, there are two files, file 1 and file 2 text. Okay. And the solution is also there in number 3. Okay. API version. Okay. Create config map from literal city London. No, this is not the config map solution. So So create a config map from files contained in a directory. That is, config map folder is a folder. Within that, there are two files, and those two files has the configuration map. Using those two files, you are expected to create a config map and make it available to the create a config map from files. Okay, here it is. It is number 3, and that this problem is also number 3. Yes, number 3. So let's get down to it. So first you need to understand the problem. Create a config map from files, okay, contained in a directory. This could be one challenge. Create a config map from a file. That could be another kind of challenge. Create a config map on the fly. So three different kinds of scenario, and the same set of scenarios you will get possibly in while dealing with secrets. So let's first come up with this create config map in the directory. Okay. So first of all, here is the solution. I'm going to copy these commands as it is because that won't take much time for me. So in a folder, there are okay, there are two files. Okay. So in that folder, I'm going to create a file1.txt. Okay. vim file1.txt, and in that file I'm going to put a line something like this: file1 key1 awesome. Okay, so this is the content. Okay, saved it, and I'm going to create one more files. Okay, that is config map folder file2.txt. If I am too fast, ask me to slow down. Okay, I hope you are following each of the steps I'm typing here. Okay. So I am creating one more file, and its content is something like this: file2 dash key colon 2. So it's a key value pair, both the files. If you take a look at the files here in this folder, there are two files in the config map folder. The two files are something like this. Okay, do a cat. Okay, so the two files, first file has this content, second file has this content. Okay, so we have created those two files. Using this folder now, config map folder, you are expected to create a config map. Usually, whenever you create a resource, the command takes the form of cube, okay, ctl, create, okay, then name of the kind of resource you are trying to create. Okay, so that is the resource type. Then you put or associate a name to that resource. Here in this question, I have made it as config map name or something like that. Okay, so this is the name that will be assigned to the new resource. What kind of resource we are creating? Config map type of resource we are creating. And then minus from file. That is, if you type -fr, it will do a command completion. If you press tab twice, it will give you the option from file equals to. You can see that. So from file equals to, okay, our folder name is config map name folder. Okay, that's it. So config map created. So our workflow is we have created a folder. Within that, we have created two files. Now from that file, we have created a config map. We can do a kubectl describe config map. Okay, and then the name of the config map is config map name. Okay, it will describe. Okay, so because config map is not encrypted, so you can see what is file1.txt, name of the file is also there, and whatever that is there in that file, that is also there in your config map. Okay, up to this everybody is clear?
Yes, I'm understanding. When you create this config map, you're actually populating the database on the etcd file. Yeah.
Yes.
Okay.
Everything that you do using kubectl command in a Kubernetes cluster, each and every data is stored in etcd. Okay, you getting the point? Kubectl command primarily communicates to the API server. API server is the only thing that can communicate to the etcd. API server then communicates to etcd that this is the desired state. Okay,
Yes. Thank you.
and etcd, once it gets the desired state, thereafter the kubectl or Kubernetes scheduler is brought into the picture to communicate to the remote kubectl, kubelet, kubelets on the. Okay, I'm not going to do that much detail because that will only confuse you. As of now, up to this, you are all clear, isn't it? Whatever that I've done. Okay, now in the question it says, okay, just not to confuse you, I'll make it some distance with the other question. So create a pod using the create a pod using Alpine image that references these config maps. Okay. Now, if the question is something like this, and you do not know how to use the Alpine image to refer to a config map, please make sure you understand this workflow. The workflow right now I am following, that workflow you should be comfortable with. Okay. What is that workflow? First of all, you should be opening kubernetes.io. Just assume this is the question that you have received. The config map folder was there already and there are two files there. Now you are asked to create a pod using Alpine image that references this config map keys. You do not know how to use an Alpine image with a config map. Come to kubernetes.io, go to the documentation part, okay? On the left, you get this search window, a search box, type config map, okay? This is one workflow you must master to attempt the kubectl Kubernetes examination, CKA examination. Configure a pod to use a config map. Okay, click this. Here you will get a reference two different way of accessing a config map. Okay, so first you create a config map. Thereafter you use the config map from your pod. So how to do that? That code is also here in this. Okay. So we'll find
Sir,
out
could
a
you just
reference.
navigate again, please?
Okay. Yes,
Yeah,
yes,
please, sir.
definitely. Thank you for saying that. Okay. Okay. First of all, I went to kubernetes.io. Okay. It's all right. Thereafter, I click this documentation. Okay. If you click documentation, it will open up the documentation page. Here, you'll find there is a search box. Can you see it?
Yes, yep.
Yes. So, and there you type config map. In fact, all your question and answers should be attempted in this fashion, and you should be following the same workflow. Okay. At the end of the day, your primary target should be clearing the examination. And thereafter, once you become the CK certified, you will get enough time at your disposal to master the complex and other more esoteric skills associated with Kubernetes. But your first thing should be like Arjun's Mahabharata, what you are looking right now, fish, eye of the fish. Okay, that eye of the fish is, so whatever skills that you need to master, please make sure. Thank you for raising this question because this is possibly the question for others too. So I typed config map. Straight away, it took me to a page, configure a pod to use a config map. I'll open it with a right click because I just want to keep this search tab open so that I can navigate to others. So configure a pod to use a config map. So here in this example itself, it will configure a config map first, create the config map. All the config map creation commands are here itself. You can see kubectl create config map from file. The command that have just executed are right here in this page. Okay. All the exam challenges that I'm going to show today, I'll show you each of those commands are available in the Kubernetes IO help page. Okay.
Chanchal, one small question, sir.
Yes, please.
There are two tabs, right? Will copy paste still work, or there's something like shift insert? Or, for example, if I come to documentation page,
yes,
can I do
yes,
the copy paste on the terminal?
yes, yes, okay. Yes, it will work. Okay, so it will work. Okay. Thanks for raising the question. Anyway, and Thereafter, we need to make this available in a pod. How to make this available in a pod? That code also I am expecting in this page only. Okay. So here it is. So your question says create a pod using Alpine image that references these config maps. You can pretty much, if any code is not provided to you, you can pretty much copy this from here itself. Okay. So what you can do, you can copy it, and thereafter you can paste it in your terminal, that is create a pod. What is the name of the pod? No pod has been suggested. So vim, we are going to create a pod named config map. All of you are suggested. Okay. Config map dash pod dot yaml. All of you are suggested to practice this workflow in your own controlled environment, so that on the day of the examination, that is the day of reckoning, you are in a position to repeat it flawlessly. Okay. So I'll do a copy and then come here. Sorry, not come here, and do a paste. Okay. So it has been copied. So name test image, I'll say Alpine. Okay. Alpine. And sorry, I have not escape you. Insert this. Oh my goodness, no. Escape, escape, escape. Then I need to copy it again. Okay. So first of all, you need to make sure that this is gone. Shift D, escape, Shift D, insert, then I'll type Alpine. As it says, use an Alpine image. ENV, these lines I do not need. DD, sorry, escape DD, name special key value from config map reference name. Name of the config map is what? Name of the config map you have just created. Okay. If you
Alpine.
don't remember, well, if you don't remember the name of the config map, you can run it just like this: kubectl from your VI itself.
Config
Cube
map name.
kubectl get, okay, config map. Okay. Config map name. I'm going to do a double click, press enter, and shift D, insert, and then do a paste. Okay. Config map name. Specify the key associated with the value. Okay. Now, if you want to refer to a specific value, then you can do in this fashion. But if you want to refer to the whole config map as such, there is a different way of referring to it. Okay. env from, instead of value from, you should take the command as env from. That also is given here in another command. Okay. So if you want to get not from value from, but from the entire file itself, then you can refer to it in this fashion: env from config map name, reference and name. Okay. That's all. That means, what is our question? Our question suggest create a Alpine pod using that references this config map keys. Okay. So what I'll do, I'll be doing an env from, that is not this code, rather I'll be copying this one. Okay. env from config map reference, then name. Okay. That's all. So we are going to do something like this. env from our config map name is config map name. Okay. That's it. And the rest of these commands I don't require. Okay. Escape. So these are two different method of access a config map. You can access a config map key by when you are expected to reference only a key. But if you are expected to refer the entire config map, you just type env from. Both the examples I have given in my exercises in my last session. And I want all of you to be comfortable. What does it mean? Okay. The reason is the same workflow we need to follow in secrets too. So even at the cost of repetition, you should understand this. Where ENV from and where ENV or volume mounts. Okay. So now that we have done it, you can run that, create that pod itself. Okay. I have not taken a look at our solution page as such because I just wanted to experiment with this workflow, and later on I'll refer to our solution page 2 in the event if something goes wrong. So kubectl create minus, so config mat pop. Okay, so kubectl get po. Okay, so dapi test pod. Okay, so this is the dapi test pod that has been created. So you have kubectl logs. Okay, oh, Kubernetes port, yes. It has created those config map and everything was there. So that's it.
So could you show
So,
the file once again, the YAML file which you created?
okay. In fact, I have last time also I have shared this file. Okay. But yes, I'll show you the file too. Okay. So this is the YAML file. Okay. So, and everything I have copied more or less from here. So it will just echo the env and it is going to execute unless you write some code which will make this container to be persistent. Okay.
One
If you,
question here,
yes,
just a clarification. The env from is basically when you're pulling environment file, namely here it's the config map file. But when you use just the env parameter, it is basically you're just specifying it. Here you're pulling it. Am I
no,
getting it right?
actually, no, actually, whenever you are into whenever you are into bash shell, if you write the command env, it will show you all the environment variables. Okay. So what is happening here within this pod, your shell is executing a command env, just like the way I have typed the command env here. Okay.
Correct.
So it will type that command env. Okay. And that env will populate the screen. That's all. Once the env command is executed, the pod will come to an end. But whatever command it has executed, that will be there in the logs. That's why when you do a log, we can get this because the env command was executed and that has generated these logs. And we are getting the env output. And in that env output, we can see that these config map environment variables are available inside the container. Is it clear to everybody?
Yes.
Okay. And is it clear how I followed this workflow? Because this is the workflow you are expected. Of course, I have shared the solution too. The solution is also there. Okay. And possibly more or less env from the same way I have referred to this in the documentation. But even if these pages and all these things are not at your disposal, you can pretty much get the job done by following this workflow. Please make sure you follow this workflow because I'm going to repeat it again in the context of secrets and also on other contexts too. Okay, is it clear? Okay,
Yes.
so there are two ways of creating config maps, and that's why I have created 2 or 3 different methods of creating a config map. Okay, config map containing values. One more thing, you can put the config map entry inside a volume mount. That is, entire config map file is made available inside the container as a file system entry. Okay, so using volume mount, let's find out whether the same thing is available on this page. Control F, search for volume, sorry, Control F, volume, okay, mount, okay, yes. Populate a volume with data stored in a config map. Okay, this is one more method. Okay, so you should understand both the method. Okay, so in the same exercise, in the previous exercise, if the question asks you that the config map entry should be mounted in the volume as etc config. Okay, so let me modify this file. Okay, create a pod, create a pod, okay, that mounts the config map, that mounts the config map, okay, in slash etc config. Okay, just the way it is here, that is etc config. Okay, this time around I'm going to create.
Sorry to interrupt you. So on my previous, when I was trying to create a pod, it was complaining that it was not able to convert YAML to JSON.
YAML to JSON.
Yeah, I was getting that error. So I did not understand.
kubectl create minus f.
Yeah, and
That command was complaining it is not able to convert YAML to JSON.
yes,
I have not faced this issue because I'll have to explore it because I don't have any ready answer for that because you have faced the problem. So definitely there must be something like that must have happened. That's why you're telling me, but I need to explore. Sorry, frankly speaking, I have not faced this issue earlier.
oh,
Okay. I'll be doing a Googling and ask some other colleagues whether they have faced something like this or not.
No, this Chanchal, this seems to be something incorrect entry or something in the line of YAML file. What he has slacked it actually. So if you get the
Okay.
contents of the YAML, you will be able to see what is that
Okay,
exact line.
okay. So do one
It's in
thing.
the syntax issue
It's a
or
syntax issue.
indentation issue.
Issue. Okay,
Yep.
if it's an indentation issue, let me do whether that git gives me the same error or not. Okay, so I'm going to delete this pod. Okay, kubectl delete. Okay, po this. Okay, we have deleted this pod. Now let's assume uh,
Wrong in his key value pair. So his indentation must have gone wrong in the key value pair. So
no, even
it's looking.
then, should it throw an error something like this that let's assume I make my indentation here, okay? So I make it something like this, okay? Okay, done. Escape and now escape colon WQ. Now if I try to run the same command, okay, that is create minus f config map pod.yaml. What is the complaint? Error converting YAML to JSON. Yes. Okay. In fact, did not find the expected key. Okay, so you got it with the collective help of the classroom attendees. I could demonstrate. Thank you, Suresh, for pointing it out. Okay.
yeah, there was the extra space while creating in env from.
Yes. Yes.
So
So
it converting it to JSON, sir? Another question.
yes, at the time of it usually converts it to an JSON and thereafter executes it. Okay, so Go language itself, that is everything in Kubernetes, majority of the tools, in particular etcd, are written in Go language. Go language is more comfortable with JSON. Okay. So having said this, now our next task is mounting this as a volume map. Okay, so for volume map, the code page I have already opened it. Okay, so we'll just make something like this: volume mounts, find this out, this particular page, mount path etc config. Okay, so env from, no, there should not be any env from, and we are going to write this bin bash minus c ls etc config. So we are going to create a busy box, or you can use this one also, there is absolutely no problem, minus c and then ls etc config, just to make sure. ls etc/config, just to make sure that it is mounted or not, that is reflected. Okay, now we are not going to do this env from and all this. Okay, so we are going to delete these three lines, 3dd, and this time around we will make the file system available as a volume mount. So you can pretty much copy it from here itself. Okay, name of the volume config volume. Okay, and how this config volume mounts will be made available. So for that, the code is already available here. Okay, so now next is volumes. This volumes is indented at the same level as the container. Okay, volumes config map name, and config map name should also be here, and the config map name should be the name of our config map. Name of our config map is config map name, something like that, isn't it? Config map name, config map name. Okay, I hope that command is always there in our history. Okay, yes, it is config map name. Yes, it's all right. So I hope our code is all right. There is no indentation problem as such. At least that's what it appears to me. So escape colon WQ. So this time around, we are going to create a pod where inside the pod, the config map will be available inside a file. Okay. So if we create this pod again, so let me find out whether the pod is already there or not. If the pod is even there, it will not be created. So kubectl get puyo. Okay, there is nothing. Great. So control R minus F config map pod YAML. Okay. So create, okay, JSON YAML 8 mapping volume values are not allowed in this error. YAML to JSON YAML line 8 mapping values are not. So I have referenced values somewhere in this file. Where is that value? Volume mount image config map volume mounts. Where did I do the value? Name config map name. Volumes name config config map name this. I don't find anything wrong. There is only one, this indentation. Of course, this indentation also is nothing wrong here. That's it. But it's not a case of indentation. The way it was showing the error, YAML to line 8, mapping values are not allowed in this context. Okay, mapping values are not allowed. Mount path, is there something wrong in our mapping values name? Okay,
I think the image, is it?
yes, image and name, they should already be indented in the same level of indentation. Okay, that's it. And image this, and the command should be this, and then The volume mount should be indented at the same level. Okay, and then the name here, and then it should be here. So it's a problem of indentation, it appears to be. Okay, escape colon WQ. Okay, yes. So in fact, usually I always take a look at the line number 8, JSON to HTML mark. Possibly I have seen so many times, but it never occurred to my mind. I have also exposed to these errors. Okay. So anyway, so now if you take a look, kubectl get pods. So even if the does a crash loop back, don't worry. Kubectl, okay, logs. Okay. So you see that what is the output of this? Why you are getting this output in the logs? Because if you take a look at this file, okay, this file at the end of the day, the moment it is created container, it will do an ls of etc config. In etc config, those two files have already been created. Okay, so you can even type here, change the file to cat. So it will read out the file's content on your, and once it is executed, it will exit. So that's why occasionally you will see this crash loop back, because it has exited. So don't get the impression you have failed. Even if you get a crash loop back, possibly when you are using a busybox kind of thing, don't worry, just do a log. Okay, so that will tell you that it has executed correctly. After some time, if you take a look at this, it will show you that there is no pod available after some time anyway. So
Sir, in the config file, that the command is there. So -c stands for string, right?
no, -c stands for bash, -c stands for command. That is,
No, that was sh. That's why I asked. Sh.
sh and bash, both of them are works in the same fashion. Okay, sh, okay, and minus minus help. If you type this, okay, okay, illegal option. It is not, sh is not that powerful. Do I do a minus h? Okay, no. So sh also more or less works in the same fashion. Okay, for sh also -c stands for same command. If you feel that that is the culprit, okay, because we have copied everything from here also. Okay, it is in busy box and it is this. So with sh you can execute this. In fact, Alpine also uses busy sh. Okay. Anyway, so now you understand there are two ways of making your config map available. One is mounting. If you mount it, the config map will be available inside a folder, inside the container as a file. Okay. So these are the two ways. The both ways we have explored. In fact, in our solution also last day, I presume, I have made both of them available. Okay. Okay. So anyway, I am providing back the reference config map keys, this config map containing the values. Okay. Anyway, so I'm also keeping this as a part of your exercise to the solution, so that at the end of the answering this problem, you can answer both the problems. A, create a pod using references to the config map. B, so there should be a second exercise, that should be B. Okay. So create a pod that mounts the config map volume. Anyway, we are going to do the same kind of exercise. Okay. The exercises will be of.
Sorry to interrupt.
Yes,
You
yes,
said
please.
when you actually create the pod, you get a crash loop message there. Yeah. So
Yes.
so the only assumption for verifying your answer is to look into the log files. Am I correct there?
Yes, because the crash loop back means it has already gone and the pod is no longer existing. Okay.
It's not existing. And
Yes.
okay, now one very silly question maybe.
Yes.
The
Please tell
logs,
it.
how long does it persist? Does it stay there for quite some time, or does it get over
Usually crash loop back is there. It stays for some time. Okay.
for some time? Okay, okay,
Yes. It stays for quite some time. Suddenly you will find that it is not there. Okay.
okay.
So, or else it is error. On finally crash loop back goes and it will show you an error. Okay. In case of this busy box pod, usually only the crash loop back is there. There is no error. Okay.
So
Yes.
Usually, where do you
uh,
find there is?
sorry,
Yes.
sorry to interrupt you, sir. So in exam, if we get that crash loop back off, would that be of concerning point?
In this kind of exercises, don't worry. That is not a problem. Okay, because they will always suggest store it as a store it inside if store the output inside a file. That means I will ask that the log files be stored in a file. So what you will do, you will write a command. In fact, we have an example like that already coming in our subsequent exercise. And you are expected to store it, okay? Config map log. You are expected to store the output. In the examination, the question they will suggest store the output of the environment variable in config map log or something like that. Okay, config map dot text in a file. Okay, so if you do this, and now if you do a cat config map text, okay, you get to see that the output is already stored there. So
So, so unless asked, only you redirect it to a text file. Otherwise, just leave it
yes,
at that. Yeah.
yes,
Okay.
I'll show you some questions also where there is a specific instruction to do that. Right now there is one. For example, here is a question: list all the persistent volumes and send it to this. This is a question. Actually, we are going to three persistent volumes first. Okay, PV1, PV2, and PV3, something like that. Okay, create a
Yes.
persistent volumes 1 GB access, because we have already created these files are expected to be available here. Okay, great. They are already available here, PV1, PV2, PV3. So we can do a kubectl. Kubectl. I hope my screen is visible to everybody.
Yes.
Kubectl create, okay, minus f pv1.yaml, pv1.yaml, and then pv2.yaml. Okay, PV1 already exists. Okay, there is some problem with the PV2. So PV2 name is, there is a problem, VIM, PV2, name should be PV2. Okay, it should be PV2. Okay, PV2 YAML and finally PV3 YAML. Okay, so kubectl get PV, kubectl get PV. Okay, so this is the output. Okay, if the question suggests list all the persistent volumes and send it to this. Okay, so list all the persistent volumes. What do I do? OC get PV. Okay, this gives me all the persistent volumes. Okay, if I just need to list out only PV1, PV2, PV3, what should I be doing?
Grep it rather. Yeah.
Awk. Okay, then within inverted comma print curly brace print $1. This, I hope this will get the result. Yes. Okay, so you can do this awk print $1, and or else you can directly redirect to a complete file. Okay, if you want to be perfect, then you should be typing awk print $1 grep. Okay, grep minus v. Okay, name. Okay, so you get the precise output. Okay, so it's up to you. Is it all right?
Yes.
Okay, That is a question. That will be an exam question actually. List all the persistent volumes and send it to a file.txt. Okay. So I have already answered this. Okay. So let me write this answer also in the answer page. Possibly I have not written the answer for this one. Okay. Solution text, list all the persistent volumes, list all the persistent volumes. Okay. So even if you don't remember the answer the way I have typed it here, that is, if you can just type kubectl get mine get pv, that could be, and redirect this output to a file. Okay, just this. Okay, so even if it is don't remember this part, awk, print, and all this, don't worry. That will also be sufficient. Okay, is it all right? Everybody followed it?
Yes. Thank you.
Great. If there is no question, then I'll move on to secrets. Okay.
Sir, can you just quickly go through the config files what we have done? Just brief. Like the first scenario was like using yeah.
Okay. So there are two different ways. The config map is all right. Okay. First, we have created the config map from a set, from a folder. Okay. Within that, there are two files. Okay. So these two files, using these two files, we have created the config map. Okay. Now, in the first case scenario, what we did, we created the config map using a env from. Okay, how in env from is done? Env from could be referred in our documentation also. Here you see, you can put these three lines inside a pod. That will make sure that the config map is available inside the pod. Are you getting my point?
Yes, yeah. Yep.
This is one way, that is env from config map name. That will make sure that the config map key value pair is available inside the pod. Other way, I talked about, there is one more problem scenario I created. Create a pod that mounts the config map in etc config. That means instead of making those config map values available as an environment variable, mount those config map inside a file, inside a folder. Okay, using volume mount. So two different set of commands we have shown you. One is env from, another is volume mounts. When you do a volume mounts, you should be doing this fashion. Okay.
Okay, sir. Thank you.
Okay. And there is one more option. There is still more scope for thank you actually. So there is one more env colon. Okay. And there you get env from. So env, and there you push should be there, control F, env colon. Okay. You see, this is one more way. env, you are defining an environment, and this you are defining a special value for this environment, and this value should be populated from config map reference. And in that config map reference, there could be a special config or something. Okay. And you can put the value populated with this. In fact, this exercise also we have done in our earlier scenario, where we have create a config map containing values. Okay, and show the values. How to refer to this? I have also provided the solution to it in our last session. Okay, to access the config map. Okay, so here it is, env value from in this fashion. Okay, so both of this way you should know how to refer to config map, mount, make the entire config map available using env from. Accessing individual key values, it should be env colon name key value pair reference. So that should take the form, this form. So don't worry, this amount of complexity will not be there in the examination. Okay, it would be much more simpler. At best, you will be expected to make the config map available inside it, primarily either from env from or volume mount. Okay, so
So
both the method.
basically, just like if you use the env parameter,
Hmm.
then it will take the values from the file itself. No need to go for that particular file where the values are there, right? So basically, for the env, as you said, like when the container spin ups and we go into the container and type env, the values should be there,
Yes,
right?
yes.
And environment from variable means it takes the same environment variable from the file rather than putting into the YAML configuration.
No, in both cases it will put into the env. Okay,
Okay,
in
so it's
both
just method like you want to use this one
yes,
or this
yes.
one.
So
Okay.
in fact, this method accesses the key value pair. What are the key value pairs? You have created the key value pairs in this file. Okay, so key value pair from literal city equals to London. This is one key value pair. Another shipping equals to free. These two key value pairs you are creating, and you are referring to these using env from env city. Then from config map name and key city. So it will referring to the key city and the value will be London. Similarly, it is going to key refer to the key shipping and the value will be free. Okay. So this is another way of referring, keep putting each of the values and name. That's a much more complex method. These complexities you are not likely to face in the examination. Okay.
Yes, yes, I got it. Thank you.
Okay,
Thank you,
but
sir.
but conceptually you should be clear about it. That's all. That's my point. Is that's why I have put all this. Some amount of complexity also have put in the exam and solutions too. The reason being, attending the examination and clearing the examination should be the end, not be the end of life. Okay, okay. Now we are going to enter into secrets. Okay,
Yeah, so for
so
so sorry, sir, but like the advantage is said, as you said, that the env is used, so every time we have to edit that particular file and just if the values are changed, you have to run that, right? Update or apply it. But if the values are changed into the file, so it is much more easier, right?
I have not made any such statement as such. Okay. I have just shown you how to make config map key value pair available inside a pod. What is advantages, what is we should be doing, and all this. I have not made these value judgments. The simple reason is at the end of the day, your requirement will prompt you what is the method you are going to adopt. Are you getting my point? So
Yes, yeah,
each
got it. Yeah.
problem scenario at the end of the day will dictate how you are going to use each of these methods. So I'm not going to make any value judgment about that. Okay, I hope I have made myself clear. Okay, so
Sure. Okay.
okay, okay, so that's all. Thank you again for raising the question. So we will now enter into secrets. If you have access config map, just config map secret is same thing. You can do the same set of exercises, same set of commands. That is the command that you have executed earlier. Okay, that is in the solution. You can see kubectl create config map my config from literal. Same command could be applied to secret. Only the name could be replaced by secret. Okay, and when you create a secret key value pair, everything will be encrypted, nothing will be visible. When you do a kubectl describe secret. So how secret is used and why secret is used, we will go into that very shortly in order that you should be clear about everything about secret. Okay, so here is our secret chapter. Okay, so when you go into secret, okay, so I'll be always suggesting you to access this page secret. Okay, there will be a secret page and also there will be associated. This is the Kubernetes secrets page. Okay, so all the concept associated, you can find it here. There are not much too complex a secret. Kubernetes secrets lets you store or manage sensitive information such words such as passwords, OAuth token, SSH keys. So Storing confidential information in a secret is safer and more flexible than putting it verbatim in a pod definition. We all understand that. So Kubernetes provides you a way of storing sensitive information using a kind of resource named secret. So how to create secret, how to store the data in secret, making those secrets available inside a pod, how to use the secret inside from a in a pod productively. That's all will be the learning point. You can see to use a secret pod needs several secret. A secret can be used in a three different way as files in a volume. Okay, the same thing we have seen in config map. Container environment variable by the kubelet when pulling images for the pod. Okay, so this part we have not done. We are not going to do anyway. But yes, these two we are going to do very shortly. Okay, how to create your own secrets. Okay, you can create a file something like this: echo admin equals to this username dot text, echo this password dot text, kubectl create secret generic from file. So using a file you can pass on a parameter, multiple parameter from file, and you can create this. Okay, so this is one way of creating. You put your secrets inside a file, and each of those secrets will be created from those files. Okay, and another way is created on the fly. How? kubectl creates secret generic from file this. Okay, and from password equals to password text. Instead of password file name you can put the password literally here. Okay, so from the command line you can create kubectl create secret generic db user pass from, instead of from file it will be using from literal. Okay, I'll show you a simple example. Okay, let's assume we are going to create a secret on the fly. Okay, username equals to Suresh, password equals to Red Hat. We are going to use a command kubectl, okay, and then create secret. Okay, the moment you type secret, instantly it expects certain parameters. What are those parameters? Press tab twice, it will show you these are the kind of secrets I know about. So let's now get ourselves limited to generic secret only, generic. Okay, next minus minus f, press tab twice, it will show you from literals, from files. Okay, so if you are going to create from literal, that means I am going to pass on the key value pair. Okay, so I'll pass on user equals to Suresh. Okay, and minus minus from literal. Okay, and then password equals to Red Hat. Okay, kubectl create secret minus h for helps. There is something terribly wrong. Can you somebody point out whatever things are going wrong? I'm giving you an option. Okay, this command is wrong. Why it is wrong? Error is too evident.
Show the error, please.
No, I don't want to. Even if I show the error, you'll not get it. Okay,
Yeah,
so
So
because
is equal to no
how
Chanchal,
it
is equal
comes to
to
know
is
it's
equal
like
to
from, sorry.
from literal space, is it? Or
no. Okay, whenever you create a resource in Kubernetes, every resource should have a name. I have not given any name to it. Okay, okay. So you need,
When you said generic, it means it's a general kind of.
yes, it's a generic, but you know it knows that it is base 64 encryption. That's all. Okay.
So it
okay,
doesn't do hashing and all that.
Yes, hashing is also done. It's generic means it's a hashing pass. So hashing has to be done, or else
Okay,
okay, or
right,
else it will be plain text. Okay. In
right.
fact, I miss this name. Whenever you create a resource in Kubernetes, every resource should be associated with a name, or else you won't be able to refer to it. So that's why Kubernetes threw an error. Okay. So now if I do this, now kubectl gets secrets. Okay. if you do a kubectl, okay, uh, describe secret, describe secret, then our testing, okay, it will tell you. But yes, levels, annotation, all these users, 6 bytes, password 6 bytes, okay, so you don't get anything. So
Sir, could you just show the error, please? Like, I just wanted
okay,
to see
okay, okay,
what's.
okay, okay. So the first time I use the command something like this, okay, if I use this command, exactly one name is required.
Okay, yeah.
So, but actually the error is here. After generic, you should always put, whenever you create a resource, every resource should be associated with a name. So, because when you list out those resources, their names will be produced. Okay. So, Kubernetes identifies each of those resources. In a project, okay, there should be, okay, so I'm going to delete this secret. Okay. So kubectl delete secret. This is one way of creating secret. Okay. On the fly in the command line. Kubectl delete secret. Okay. And the name of the secret is testing. Okay. Deleted. Okay. So I'll give you a 15 minutes break and I'll come back after 15 minutes and carry forward. Is it all right?
Yes, no problems.
Okay, fine.
Yes, but